Hello, you absolute beauties, and welcome to Wake Up Later. It is Wednesday, the 21st of May, 2025 is exactly 5 p.m. British Summer Time, and I am your host, journalist, broadcaster, all-round troublemaker, Sonia Poulton. Thank you for being here with me. Welcome to Wake Up Later, the show that knows you are beautiful just as you are, but there's no profit to legacy media if they told you that. How are you today? Midweek Wednesday, our catch up. And the weather is weird, to say the least. To say the least. Now, I'm going to get straight into the news, other than to say our guest today is Toronto journalist Roxanne. And she's going to be talking about why she changed her mind regarding Michael Jackson. Thank you all for being here in the chat, you beautiful, beautiful people. I very much appreciate it. We don't have long today, of course. It's only an hour show, so I'm going to get straight into it. Breaking news, the inquest into the death of teenager Jay Slater was halted today when his mother hit out after two British men at the center of the story failed to attend the inquest. Jay, of course, was just 19 years old when he disappeared on Tenerife last summer, sparking something of a major manhunt before he was sadly found dead about a month later. His mother, Debbie Duncan, was extremely emotional today, as you can imagine. This is the inquest for her son, and two of the people that she believes should be there, the last people probably known to have seen her son, were not there. So what happened was Debbie Duncan, she was highly emotional, quite naturally. She said that the two men who rented the Airbnb, of which Jay was said to have gone to, which is convicted drug dealer Ayab Qasim and Stephen Rockus, previously known as Rocky, they failed to attend the inquest. She told Lancashire's senior coroner, Dr. James Adderley, actually the same coroner who oversaw Nicola Bulley, because that's the region, and she told the coroner, how can we ever get any understanding? We know he died. He had an accident. She was sobbing, and she added, there's the thing that we want to question. We want these people to be sat in front of us. Something went wrong that day. He didn't come back. There's questions we need to ask, please. The coroner agreed to pause proceedings momentarily so that she could compose herself. And then he later adjourned the hearing so that his staff could, attempt to make further efforts to find Mr. Qasim and Mr. Rockus. But he warned the family that he was not confident of success, which is odd. And he told the Slater family, you've heard of our difficulties in finding them. However, in view of your distress, we will make an effort. Wow. Big whoop. Can't believe it. A mother's son, still very sad. Absolutely, Anna Marie. However he died, whatever he was involved, he was 19 years old and she deserves to know the truth. Absolutely outrageous that two people, the last two people known to have seen him, they should be summoned. They should be summoned. Absolutely outrageous. And we have some breaking news regarding Tommy Robinson as well. You may have heard that yesterday he won his appeal, and he's the court cut his prison term, his 18-month prison term for contempt of court, cut it short. And here's the thing. He was jailed in October after he admitted breaching an injunction banning him from repeating false allegations against a Syrian refugee who had successfully sued him for libel. And Britain's Solicitors General took legal action against Tommy Robinson over comments. But the judge yesterday said that the 4 months, I don't know what I'm saying here. Let me just take it off the top of my head. So essentially, Tommy Robinson will be released next week. But this is on the basis that he will remove this film from all social media, which he's agreed to do. However, and I think this is where I was tripping up slightly, is there is also just breaking news. And that is, even though Tommy Robinson will be released next week, he has just been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against two men. It's a live case. Please be careful what you say. Of course, a Crown Prosecution Service spokesperson said, we have authorized the Metropolitan Police to charge Stephen Yaxley Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson, with harassment causing fear of violence against two men. The Crown Prosecution Service reminds all concerned that criminal proceedings against the defendant are active and that he has a right to a fair trial. So it's very interesting, of course, that his term was cut short yesterday and then today he's charged. Very interesting indeed. I feel very interesting indeed. Right. But because it's a live case, it is tricky. It was very, very tricky to comment on it. And that's why I was tripping up back there. But moving on, the EU-UK deal happened. Regardless of what people thought. I was saying on Monday, this is them undoing Brexit by the back door. And of course it is. Many industries are behind it, saying it will enable us to trade better following Brexit. But really, is that the truth? And so you have people you have organizations like Asda and M&S and Salmon Scotland and BAE Systems and the Federation of Small Businesses all supporting it. And you have politicians like Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch opposing it. This is absolutely Brexit undone and by the back door. It's important to understand that we are no longer operating as a democracy. I know that is what people want to believe. I know that. I get that. But we are not. We're not in a democracy at this moment in time, right? That is the problem. And this is apparent because despite several years of campaigning for many, many people, the much loathed pandemic global agreement was voted for on Monday and formally adopted yesterday. This is extremely controversial. It's a lockstep agreement that many, including myself, have fought against, and it follows C19 and the so-called lessons learned. 124 countries voted in favor after Slovakia called for a vote on Monday. It's important to understand that our public health is now governed from Geneva, home of who, and not Westminster, the home of our elected representatives in the UK. To be clear, this is power and authority being immobilized and centralized like never before. And we will see more unelected influence and interference than even before C19. This should concern us all. But we fought against it and still they voted it in. And I want to know now, is this binding? What about our own sovereignty? How can it supersede that? Well, it's important to note, despite whatever you may have read, it will not formally come into effect until, well, they've still got more negotiations to do with pathogen sharing. The annex part of that is still being negotiated. They're saying it could take up to 2 years, after which states will have to ratify the accord. And obviously, Donald Trump has pulled the US out of the WHO. So they are no longer bound by this pact. And the UK needs to be more US on this one, 100%. I don't know anybody who supports what's going on with the WHO, anybody. We cannot have these globalists deciding on matters of public health, especially after what they did with C19. And I worry, honestly, I do worry that people as a whole, not people in the comments who are generally very, very savvy, and people who follow this and watch this show are generally savvy and know what's going on. But I worry that people as a whole are just kind of like too weak and too exhausted to fight back anymore. Is that what's happened? Have we been led into cul-de-sacs by gatekeepers who steered us into wrong places? It's a question worth asking and hopefully answering as well. Just to show you these, let's just bring these in. The Starmer alleged arson attacks have resulted in a third male being charged. The three men charged are from left to right. Petro Pochinok, that can't be right. Pochinok, that is Petro Pochinok, Roman Larivnovich, and Stanislav Karpiuk. Very difficult names, Ukraine names. They are Ukrainian nationals and they've been charged in connection with the fires. The charges relate to 3 incidents: a vehicle fire in Kentish Town, a fire at the Prime Minister's private home on the same street, and a fire at an address where he previously lived in northwest London. Mr. Pochettino appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court this morning. He is accused of conspiring together with the others and the Ukrainian nationals. Mr. Karpiuk was born in Ukraine but has a Romanian nationality. The 3 men have been remanded in custody until the next scheduled hearing at the Old Bailey in London on the 6th of June. And please, God, don't let me have to repeat those names again. What a pain. How are you? How are you all, darling people? How are you all? I will shortly be welcoming in our guest. What could this headline possibly mean, people? I'm now going to have to do sign language, even though we are in 2025 and most intelligent people have worked out what's going on. You still can't say it on YouTube. And that is, it has been declared via headlines that people's heart health in the UK is declining rapidly in a worrying trend, so much so that the British Heart Foundation have come out and said it's the worst start to a decade for heart health in 50 years. In 50 years. I wonder what it could possibly be. The British Heart Foundation have put it down to obesity. Well, yes, that absolutely can be a contributing factor. No doubt. They've put it down to all manner of things. What they don't put it down to is what's happened over the last 5 years. They don't even go anywhere near it. And so when I say I'm going to have to do some form of sign language, because this is YouTube, and even though YouTube should have caught up by now, it simply hasn't. This is the biggest elephant in the room in probably in like 30 years of journalism and broadcasting. I still can't believe that we're not allowed to openly talk about it. It's absolutely outrageous. Jackie, did the British Heart Foundation block you? Did they block you? So, yeah, fairly outrageous. And you'd think that the British Heart Foundation would be asking questions, but no. They're driving a research revolution. It's been the worst start to a decade for heart health for half a century, says Dr. Charmaine Griffiths, the chief executive. But we're entering an era of immense scientific opportunity that can turn this tide. You can't turn the tide on people who have already died. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So many people are culpable for what has taken place over the last 5 years. It's outrageous. And the nerve of Boris Johnson, multi-child, multi-philanderer, multi-wife. Boris Johnson says Keir Starmer is turning the UK into a police state. And well, I absolutely do not agree with that. Who the heck does Boris Johnson think he is? This is the man who locked down our nation during C-19 and had people watch on iPad as their elderly loved ones died. And I know that for fact because I interviewed people who weren't allowed to go to visit their loved ones in care homes. And that was Boris Johnson. He's in no position to be saying anything about Keir Starmer. They are absolutely in league together. And just briefly touch on this, and that is, well, Tommy Robinson won his appeal. Here's a woman who didn't. Lucy Connolly, she didn't win her appeal at all. She's been denied a release. I believe, as I said on social media today, I believe that Lucy Connolly is a psychological operation against the British people. The aim is absolutely to scare us from publicly criticising and exposing the harms of government and their handlers. And again, as I said on social media, that doesn't mean she isn't real. It just means that they weaponized her against us. And I've been forced to come to this conclusion. Of course, she, a mother who had tweeted in the wake of the Southport attack on the 3 small children, the murder of 3 small children, and the attacks on other children by Axel Ruda-Cabana. And she tweeted and then deleted. And of course, she was given 31 months inside. And now her appeal to cut short her sentence has failed. And I think it's really interesting. And one of the appeal judges was Mr. Justice Goss, who sentenced another Lucy, that being neonatal nurse Lucy Letby. And it may well be that both Lucys are psyops, that they have been weaponized against the British public for any number of wider political agendas. We shall see. We shall see. And right, quickly, just want to give you a blast of this if I can. This is Prime Minister Question Times today. This is Independent MP Rupert Lowe addressing Keir Starmer. Have a quick listen and then I'll bring in our first guest.
Speaker, does the Prime Minister agree that imprisoning Lucy Connolly, a young mother with a 12-year-old daughter, for one foolish social media post, soon deleted, is clearly not an efficient or fair use of prison?
Mr. Speaker, sentencing is a matter for our courts, and I celebrate the fact that we have independent courts in this country. I am strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very long time, and we protect it fiercely. But I'm equally against incitement to violence against other people. And I will always support the action taken by our police and courts to keep our streets and people safe.
I mean, I don't know how you feel when you see Sir Keir Rodney Starmer on the screen, but I just feel like headbutting walls personally. Right. He said we've always had free speech for a very long time. Yes, we did. And then suddenly there he is taking up space at number 10. And suddenly, apparently, most people who are speaking out against him are far right. And he's imprisoning people for untenably, unconscionably long terms. This is not a prime minister who believes in free speech. However, having said that, this is a show that believes in free speech. And I've previously talked about Michael Jackson, the man who has always been referred to as the king of pop. And of course, a very checkered history. Lots of things have been said about him. And I went backwards and forwards throughout the last few decades, really, about Michael Jackson. I, first of all, believed the rumors about him, then I didn't. And I'm going to be joined by a woman who went through pretty much the same kind of trajectory. And I want to hear what she has to say about it. Let's welcome her in. Here she is, Roxanne Johnson. Good afternoon to you, Roxanne. How are you?
Hi, Sonia. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing good. Thanks.
Lovely to have you with us. You're a journalist and broadcaster. You have a passion for tackling social injustice issues, just as I do. Human rights abuses. You care about children, the abuse of children, which is why ordinarily many people would think that I would be very much positioned, against Michael Jackson. But I wasn't for the longest period of time. And then James, one of our viewers, wrote into me and said, would you please talk to Roxanne? I know where you stand, but James also understands that we believe in free speech around here. And so, Roxanne, I've invited you on because I want to hear what you have to say. I've been watching your video. I think it's important. I think it's really important for us to be able to have many takes at a situation. And so you used to believe Michael Jackson was innocent, just as I did. Yes. What changed your mind?
This is probably a common answer for a lot of people now, but it was the Leaving Neverland documentary that really blew it out of the water for me. So that pretty much was a bomb that went off and changed a lot of minds, mine included.
Now, it was Leaving Neverland that I had some problems with because obviously the central characters, Wade Robson, James Safechuck, they previously defended him, hadn't they, at trial? And so, yeah. But also I understand about child abuse and I understand how people can change their minds as well. So I had problems with that and I had problems with their testimony because it felt very much like it was financially driven. But you found them to be sincere?
I personally do find what they said, even just the emotion that I saw, I feel that it's authentic in my personal opinion. So, and it's not just the testimonies, but after that, I did a lot of digging into the case and I'm realizing that there are a lot of telltale signs that we really didn't have access to this information back in the 90s and back in the early 2000s when the first two allegations hit. Now we're living in a post-Me Too, post-Time's Up era. And now, fortunately, all the the court filings and the testimonies and depositions are all on the internet as public record for anybody to look through. So you can kind of go through that and realize, my goodness, there's something here.
Of course, Michael Jackson died June 2009. Dr. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011 for administering a drug overdose to him. And Michael Jackson was repeatedly throughout his lifetime accused of being a child abuser. And I think the earliest time I remember it was Geordie Chandler. Was that the first accusation?
That's the first one, 1993. Right. That's right.
The problem for the Geordie Chandler one was Evan Chandler, the father. He was problematic, wasn't he?
Oh, very, very much so. And even though I do believe the Geordie Chandler allegations, I also felt from what I've read of Evan Chandler in his brother's book, Ray Chandler's book, All That Glitters, that details the whole case. And of course, those notorious recordings of Evan Chandler saying he's going to win big time. I don't know how you can win big time when your child has been sexually victimized. So it was that. And I do believe that Evan Chandler may have been an opportunist taking advantage of what he saw as, a financially beneficial opportunity.
One of the things that you talk about, and I do completely agree with you, is partly the problem that comes with fame and how lax parents get around fame and starstruck, don't they? And if it is, obviously it's problematic, some of the things that Michael Jackson said when he was alive. He actually did admit to sharing a bed with these children, didn't he? So, yes, but parents allowed that. Parents enabled that, didn't they?
Yes. And, I try not to come down too hard on them, especially since now we're post Time's Up, post Me Too. But back in the 90s, especially with Michael Jackson literally being the most famous pop star on the planet, I think a lot of people lost their heads, lost their logic, lost their just common sense about things. And, for a parent to even meet a celebrity, much less a mega pop star, who is now showering you with gifts, showering you with, shopping sprees and trips on private jets to, exotic places, I think a lot of parents, therefore, lost their sense of duty over their children as well.
Sure, they did. Your position is it's an interesting one, because lots of people now absolutely believe that Michael Jackson was innocent, that he was set up. Michael Jackson was not the same as you and I. He had a completely different background, and in that respect, he was an abused child himself, wasn't he?
Yes.
Although not necessarily sexually, and so he didn't necessarily operate and I'm not here justifying him. It's just, I want to get your feedback on this. So he didn't necessarily operate in the way that perhaps an adult man would. He was still very infantilized himself. Do you think that plays a huge part in it?
Definitely, but there's also the issue, there's an interview with Smokey Robinson, who, of course, through Motown knew the Jacksons, knew Michael Jackson as a child performer. And he basically said that Michael Jackson, after a while, divorced himself from anyone who would tell him no, including his family, basically moving from the Havenhurst complex where he lived with the rest of his family, moving all the way out to Santa Barbara, building the Neverland Ranch, and basically having his own rule of law, I think Smokey Robinson made a very interesting observation. He said he divorced himself from anyone who would tell him no. And so that's another factor. Yes, he was a child star who achieved a mega fame at the early age of 11. And yes, that's a completely different life, but he did do some things to ensure that he didn't have anyone to be accountable to.
Is there an issue here? Because I've heard about this before, and I have a history of being a music journalist, and my speciality was hip hop and black music. And so I'm very aware of what was going on in America. I spent a huge amount of time in America. And obviously, when you look at situations like R. Kelly, for one example, and Bill Cosby, and we know that oftentimes it is very difficult for black people to call out other black men because there is an issue about bringing black men down. You know what I'm talking about, don't
Yes.
you? Do you think this applied to him?
Oh, definitely. And I think Michael Jackson definitely would play up his use of the black card when it suited him, even though he pretty much almost completely divorced himself from the black community in terms of, even in his appearance, now appealing to almost a white majority audience that enjoys pop. Of course, his roots were in Motown and traditionally black music, but as he gained fame, particularly with the Thriller album, with the Bad album, going into that more pop zone, he had a global appeal. And so, it's kind of strange, but there are times when if somebody calls him out, then he brings up the black card and says, oh, this is what the police are after. They don't like a rich, successful black man. But he did that, I found, at his own convenience.
Interesting. I interviewed Tom Mesereau. You know Tom Mesereau, obviously,
Yes.
the lead defense for, when was it? 2002, 2003. It was around there, wasn't it? To do with Gavin
2005.
RV. That's
Yes.
it. There you go. So I found Tom Mesereau quite compelling. Obviously, he completely believed Michael Jackson. And the other thing that I found compelling was Square One. Have you seen that? The film about that trial and how there were media and legal manipulations. I just wondered if you have seen that and if you had any thoughts on it.
Sure. I did watch parts of Square One. I did find that the points that they were making, they did not sufficiently back them up. The idea that Jordy Chandler admitted that, Michael Jackson never touched him, when he is on record with Dr. Richard Gardner, who was the psychiatrist who interviewed him, the child psychiatrist, and he gave those details just about these sex acts that Michael Jackson had done. Regarding Tom Mesereau, personally, I think that Tom Mesereau, from what I've seen of things that he said publicly, I do not believe that Tom Mesereau believes that he is innocent. And the reason is Tom Mesereau has also made false statements about the case. For example, saying that there was no DNA or forensic evidence found at the Neverland Ranch. He said no hair, no fiber, no fluid. That is false. Tom Sneddon submitted that evidence was found of semen stains on Michael Jackson's mattress and in a pair of underwear, semen stains that did not belong to Michael Jackson as well. So there's that. Also, Tom Mesereau would make exaggerations about Michael Jackson's room. Oh, it was a duplex. It was not a duplex, right? There's a video where you can see a tour of Michael Jackson's bedroom, which of course did have a loft that went upstairs, but it was by no means a duplex. Tom Mesereau also says, oh, parents were welcome to stay in that room and did stay in that room. Okay, true. But, Tom Mesereau's star witness, both Wade Robson and Brett Barnes, admitted that they slept in Michael Jackson's room one-on-one with him, and who was there to vouch then that Michael Jackson did nothing to these children. So I have found that if Tom Mesereau really believed that Michael Jackson didn't do it, it's very contradictory. Why would you have to make false statements about the case then if you did believe that he was innocent?
Interesting. Your current video, I think you just uploaded it now. If it's true, it's a smoking gun because there is this potential of a sex tape. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so Michael Jackson's former chambermaid, Adrienne McManus, who worked for Michael Jackson between 1990 and 1994, she said that Michael Jackson's camp during the 1993 Jordy Chandler allegations did in fact know ahead of time that a police raid was going to happen. So what happened is that basically staff was instructed to start tearing apart the room, taking away bed sheets, pillowcases, pictures, books, and all kinds of things. And she said these things were put in boxes and crates and removed from the ranch and his Century City condominium before the LAPD could do their raid the next day. So she's already admitted to that. Also, she said that a member of staff at the Neverland Ranch, the projectionist that was responsible for Michael Jackson's private movie cinema, he also spoke to her and said that he did see that there were tapes involving sexual activity with children with Michael Jackson, that he saw these tapes in the cinema. So there's that. Also, the fact that back in about 1994 and 1995, both district attorney offices of both the LA, Los Angeles County and Santa Barbara County caught wind that there was such a tape, and they had all of their detectives frantically looking for this tape. So, you know, with all that put together, and the fact that Gary Hearn, which was also another member of staff for Michael Jackson, he was a chauffeur, was instructed by a private investigator working for Michael Jackson at the time, Anthony Pellicano, instructed this chauffeur before the raid to remove multiple suitcases of items in his car and bring it to Anthony Pellicano's private residence before these raids. So I would say that there is a reasonable suspicion that these tapes might exist.
I mean, that would be phenomenal. So is it possible that they've either been destroyed or somebody's keeping them? I mean, the thing is, as I say, I was a music journalist for a very long time, and I know that the level of sort of bribery and blackmail that takes place within the music industry and how people are compromised because of some of their sexual proclivities. I know all those things take place, and obviously the music industry protects itself in situations like this. So, you know, I just wonder, what is the likelihood, and why would, living in the world we live in now, Roxanne, why have we not yet seen them? Do you take my point? Because everything makes its way online very quickly for the most part, doesn't it? Although, having said that, it took almost 10 years before we actually saw Diddy actually beating Cassie, because they'd hidden that tape, hadn't they? So I think I might have just
That's
answered
right.
my own. But please pick it up for me.
Well, you know, the way I see it, it was back in 1993. It was before smartphones. It was before a lot of digital media. You know, if these were VHS cassettes, you know, at the time you would have to go through a lot of trouble to digitize these cassettes. Even to make a copy, you'd need the physical form in your hand. So, you know, for it to be hidden or destroyed, I think it's a lot easier back in the 90s than it is now. Once you post something on the internet, it's there for life. But something on a VHS cassette that needs a VHS player and all that kind of thing, I think it's a little bit easier to understand why we haven't seen those pop up somewhere yet.
Why does this work interest you? What is it about the kind of need for social justice in these situations that drives you, Roxanne?
Oh, most definitely. I don't mind sharing. I myself am an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And it's one of the reasons why, when I watched Leaving Neverland, something inside me told me they're telling the truth. The level of detail, the emotions you see them going through, and even why they waited so long before they came out and addressed this. You know, I personally know I wasn't able to confront my abuser until well into my 30s after I had my first child, which is actually also something that Wade and Jimmy said after having their first child or first children. They realized this trauma was still there. And when you come face to face with your own child and that trauma, something happens there where you can't keep the secret anymore. And so personally, that's why I believe them.
So you're in no doubt now that he is guilty as charged and as accused.
Oh, definitely. With the things that I've seen, you have 7 men who have come out publicly to accuse Michael Jackson of sexual misconduct. Now, not just Jimmy and Wade, and not just Jordan Chandler and Gavin Arvizo. You have 3 more as well. And then you have John Branca, who's the executor of the Jackson estate, admitting in the Financial Times that after leaving Neverland, 5 more accusers came to the estate and said that they were going to make their allegations public. And he admitted in this interview with the Financial Times that the estate did pay them between $16 and $20 million not to come forward. So, I mean, there's so many things pointing towards guilt now.
That's significant. I didn't realize that, what you've just said there, that people were paid not to come forward, because also from a financial perspective, the people who have spoken out, have they gained financially? I think they have, haven't they? No?
Well, if you think that, because a lot of people, James and Wade are out for money and they're suing the estate for $2 billion. That's true. But the fact is, they have been in this battle now for over 10 years, incurring all kinds of legal fees, because I'm pretty sure their team is not doing this pro bono, right? 10 years of not seeing one dime from the estate, which they might have done if they went to them secretly and said, hey, give us a little money and we won't come forward. There was more of a possibility of them seeing money if that was the case. 10 years now coming forward publicly, fighting this legal battle, which they still have a 50% chance of losing, upon which they will be ordered by the court to reimburse the Jackson estate for all their legal fees for being sued. That is the consequence of suing someone. If you lose, you have to pay their legal fees. So I really don't think at this point someone can say this is a money grab. 10 years, not a dime.
I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? I'm so torn, because I've seen how screwed up sort of adult who were child stars, how they then become adult stars. I've seen absolutely how screwed up they are, and how they don't necessarily operate sort of on the same ballpark of understanding or morality as us. But, again, absolutely, I think it's vital to hear all sides to a discussion. Before you leave us today, Roxanne Johnson, you get the last word. What do you want people to take home?
I want people to take home that, do your own homework. Go into the situation. Look at the fact that, this man admitted to sleeping in the bed with children, admitted to sleeping one-on-one with these children. And so there's so many things that if you examine the witness statements, the people who worked at Neverland, who claimed they saw this man molesting children, if we go in there, there's some undeniable facts that will no longer have you in doubt.
Thank you for joining us. I should say, though, before James had recommended you to me, I'd actually watched you before when it came to the Watts case, because you were equally outspoken on that. And I'm going to bring you back to discuss that, because I think you and I have a lot, again, to talk about. And it's been a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much, everybody. Roxanne Johnson, absolutely lovely to have you with us. Roxanne, take good care of yourself. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Sonia.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I hope she's got you all suitably excised in the comments. Dare I even read them? Drumstick says, Rox, you do some homework, please. Marco says, thank you, Roxanne. Shin says, next time, not so loud. Oh, what's that? I'm always open to opinions, but only with facts. This is a lot of conjecture, but it isn't, though, DP. It isn't. There is actually a lot of evidence to suggest that it is correct. But having said that, I still remain of the same mind. And I would actually recommend anybody to watch Square One. I think it's a really good study on how the legal world and the media can come together to misrepresent a situation. And thank you, Anne-Marie. I think it's really important to have lots of different people. I do. I absolutely do. And it was lovely to talk to her. Lovely, very eloquent, articulate individual who's very passionate. And also, you can, given her background, you can see why she has the position that she has and why she feels the way that she does. Not saying that automatically because somebody is abused that they're automatically going to assume that other people are abusers, but it also can be that when you have been abused as a child that you are able to pick up certain telltale signs. But I have to say that I am not convinced by the two guys in Leaving Netherlands. No, I wasn't. Yes, Em, the beauty of this channel is we are open, discussion is open. Yes, right. Okay, I'm going to carry on. I'm very sorry to hear about this, by the way. Leanne Lucas, any of you familiar with her? Her experience was horrific, but what she's proposing is insane. So Leanne Lucas was part of the dance workshop, the Taylor Swift themed dance workshop, when Axel Rudakabana bust in, killed the 3 girls, attacked others, and Leanne Lucas was leading it. And she's launched today a new campaign, and sick of it, people. I'm going to be honest. I'm really, really sick of this. Her new campaign is called Let's Be Blunt, and it aims to raise social awareness of safer tipped knives. And she's proposing a safer option is to go for curved or blunt tip knives that reduce that risk of the kitchen knife being used as a weapon. And honestly, who else feels echoes of Dunblane, Thomas Hamilton, and the banning of some handguns when you read stuff like this? Who else feels that way? And we cannot criminalize people for kitchen knife usage, right? Rendering like, because what happens is we're literally like criminalizing everybody who would have certain knives in their kitchen. No, we need to look at why there is so much knife crime. I really loathe and vendetta. This is so nonsense. It is so ridiculous. I really loathe the way that they want to criminalize the object as opposed to the people wielding it. It is people who turn objects into weapons, not the weapon, not the objects themselves, rather. Absolutely ridiculous, Brett. It's ridiculous. And Leanne Lucas is saying that we don't need to wait for government or the police to tell us what to do. And she says that the public need to do an inventory of their kitchen knives. Again, Leanne, you went through a horrible scenario, very, very traumatic. But no, sorry, this is mad. This is absolutely mad, and I'm not going to be part of it. And I'm so sick of the nanny state, Jack. I really am. And it's just ridiculous. Since the attack, Miss Lucas says she feels like I've just had my eyes open to how domestic tools can be weaponized. You know what, Miss Lucas? I've had my eyes open to how people like you can be weaponized, like Lucy Connolly. You people are being weaponized against us. That's what you need to open your eyes to. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Simon says we also need to ban forks. Let's go back to ripping food apart with our hands, folks. Let's do it, because this is just absolutely dire and ridiculous. Right. What do I want to talk about with you? Beautiful people. Where are we? Okay, ITV. Interesting. On Monday, we had Jeff Peel with us, and Jeff was talking about the promotion and over promotion of weight loss jabs, including on ITV and Dr. Hilary Jones. And I did that deliberate, obviously. And Dr. Hilary Jones is someone who has for a very, very long time, really, in my opinion, we're still allowed to have opinion, even in defamation, we're still allowed to have an opinion, but he's somebody who has used platforms, media platforms, editorially to do the work of advertising, and which then sidesteps all manner of issues that you have to confront when advertising. And obviously, he led the charge on the C19 jab. We know that. And he's leading the charge on these weight loss jabs. And what Jeff Peel was questioning on Monday was this whole idea of, is somebody funding them? I mean, somebody's getting paid to promote it. And so I said to Jeff, I'm going to make it as a standalone clip. I will send it to ITV. I'm now waiting on a response, because I think we need to know. We've sent a message to ITV, as I promised Jeff I would. And Jeff also tweeted it, and I tweeted it, and we sent it separately because we need to know. But what is interesting, of course, is after that conversation on Monday with Jeff, ITV yesterday announced all of these cuts, right? And it's interesting because Lorraine, that harpy, Lorraine, is just horrendous. She really is. She's obviously now a huge part of the kind of like LGBTQ into affinity agenda. And she's just kind of ridiculous. She's just like hideously woke. Well, she's now been cut to kind of like half a year. Loose women have been cut. But the fact is, ITV is in trouble and have been in trouble for a while. The Philip Schofield episode served them very, very badly indeed. And nothing is kind of rectified after that. And crazy Lorraine is just, well, she's just bat really, frankly. And now they're going to be cutting her show down to half an hour. It's over, Lorraine. It's over. So that is the reality. It's over. And people are just kind of sick and tired of people like Lorraine who live in fabulous wealth, fabulous comfort, trying to act as if they're just like us, one of us, going through the same things that we go through, the cost of living crisis and everything else. Of course, Lorraine is a major promoter of every agenda going, right? Be that C19 or, as I say, the LGBTQ. She's all over it. And Martin, I have to agree with you. ITV is a channel for the brain dead. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And but they are hemorrhaging money. That is the reality. And Jeff also pointed out that Sky is in trouble as well. These broadcasters are in very, very serious trouble, and not before time, frankly. They don't deserve good stuff. What do they? No, they don't. No, they don't at all. And we talked on Monday about the deer orca whales and dolphins trapped in an abandoned French marine life park. Call to action. Thank you, Jules. One suggestion is to write to President Macron. I will put the details below. Thank you for super chat, Fred, and thank you somebody else who'd also put super chat, and thank you. I very much appreciate you. You are stars. I will put in the description below at the end of the stream a link in which we can write to President Macron, and as Jules points out, we can ask him to trigger French law 2021 to 1539, which bans captive creatures from December 2026 and help these prisoners. And you can also check out Tidebreaker's official statement about the situation. And there's some good comments there. I don't want to get distracted, but there are some good comments there about the mRNA just there. So please, I think that's really important. If you saw the video on Monday and it's part of Monday's show, it is just horrible. Bridget had sent it to me. I wasn't aware of it. And then I saw it on social media and it's really bad. And basically the kind of like marine life closed down and they've just left them. And it's just horrible. These animals, well, creatures are just swimming round and round and round and round. And the problem is they're born in captivity. So it's not as simple as releasing them to the ocean. Oh, did it break your heart, Blue Nomad? It's horrible. Thank you, Jules, says Vendetta. Thank you, Jules, whoever you are. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. They want to turn off the traditional TV signal. Wait. Let's get that. Move it all to internet. Do you think so? Can we also write to his husband? Whose husband? Wait, what have I missed? What did I miss, kids? What's going on? Can't remember what that was about. Thank you. But Frankie, remind me what that was. Anyway, let's do that. I'd really like to do that. And Harvey Weinstein, I see that he was back in court yesterday for a retrial, had a medical episode after the woman accusing him of sexually assaulting her gestured in his direction after she left the witness stand. As she passed the defense table, she turned towards the seated producer, ex-Hollywood producer, aimed a finger at her eyes and then at him. The gesture seemed to allude to that she wanted Weinstein to look at her. It prompted his lawyer Arthur Adela to argue for a mistrial, and then Weinstein started making gurgling noises, and two court officers quickly kind of like surrounded him. He took a sip of water, which seemed to end the sudden episode. Do you remember when he was first in court and suddenly he appeared with a walk-in frame. Do you remember that? Right. And I'm going to be really clear here now is that I'm not an enabler. And that's exactly why, for example, when there's such controversy around characters, Hollywood characters, I try and look at all the facts as much as I humanly can. The facts tell me that there is a great deal of discrepancy to do with Michael Jackson as one example, but I don't feel that way about Harvey Weinstein. No, I don't. And there's a joke in certain media circles, and it goes like this. Who should you book if you want to demonize both Black people and women? Answer, Candace Owen. She'll do the job for you. Now, that may not be entirely the truth, but there is some truth to it. She's currently shilling for Harvey Weinstein after attempting to turn her mate Andrew Tate into nothing more than a cheeky little beggar. She's now on the grind to humanize Harvey Weinstein. This is a man who ruled Hollywood for decades. Careers, mostly those of women, were destroyed on his say-so, and often unless he was able to have his wicked way with them. He's the original casting couch story, and I don't understand why anybody would support that. Yes, the Me Too movement was hinged on him. And no matter what Harv and Candace want to convince people, women and men have been abused in Hollywood forever. And it's because of over-entitled, over-powerful pigs like Weinstein. I have to wonder why a smart cookie like Candace Owen is so intent on making us believe that predators are largely just misunderstood. I really don't understand where she's coming from on that. And there are some things I agree with her on. I agree with her to do with what's going on in Israel, although not everything that she has to say in terms of Jewish people. Some of it is highly problematic, but I do agree with her in terms of Israel and Gaza. But I do not agree with her when it comes to Weinstein, who she had a prison call with, and Andrew Tate. I think those things are very, very problematic. And is it possible that Candace Owen came to disrupt social movements? Remember that her first attack was on Black Lives Matter. Now, there was a lot wrong with Black Lives Matter, a lot. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't something worth highlighting within that movement. There was, and especially in America. And so I think it's really problematic. And I know that I have people who watch me and who watch Candace. And again, we are allowed to do that, okay? I'm allowed to criticize her, and you're still allowed to watch her and me. Isn't that great? What a world, because we're not on a purity spiral around here. We're not. And there you go. We're not on a purity spiral. No, we're not. And by the way, just talking about Hollywood horrors, and I want to delve in more on this on Friday. Did you see the announcement of Meghan Markle and Chrissy Teigen coming together? Chrissy Soddin Teigen. Deranged, problematic weirdo. And they are about to haul Chrissy Teigen out again, right? She's such a vile, disgusting human being. She's written disgusting things about children. She's alluded frequently and often to the issue of Pizzagate. She's talked about how funny it makes her feel seeing children do the splits. She's appeared naked in baths with her children and put the images online. She claimed that she had a miscarriage when she had an abortion. And now she's going to be Meghan Markle's big guest on part 2 of the Netflix series. I can't believe this shite. I cannot believe it. Shocking. I want to delve in more on Friday about Chrissy Teigen, who she is and what she's about. And she's disgusting. Disgusting. Saw a headline yesterday in the Metro, actually. Metro is a free newspaper that we get in London. And the headline is Mad Cow Disease Confirmed on Essex Farm. Remember when that happened before, kids? We can't keep being taken in by this, right? They lied before. They exaggerated. Animals were exponentially destroyed on the basis of their lies. They are filthy, disgusting individuals. But yeah, that's the first headline that I've seen on that one. So it's all going to be popping up again, no doubt. And they upped the gear in the UK this week. They upped to gear rather in the UK this week. And yesterday, many of us woke up to I mean, just weird, destroyed skies. And then today it's all been raining. I don't know where you are in the UK, whether it's raining, grey skies, but Louise wrote in, and Louise, I've got your image here. Let's have a look at it. Louise said, I thought I'd send you this. She sent me 2 pictures, but I'm just showing you one, and I'm not sure if it's oops. Let me just, why is Michael Jackson still on the screen? Let me remove Michael Jackson. There it is, Louise. I think it clearly shows us, I'm not sure whether that's 9:30 or 11:30, but it clearly shows that that's a huge sweep. And what was interesting when I was out, it's so weird because I looked in front of me, right to the left, the sky was all chemmed up, and to the right, it was completely clear. And the thing is, we 100% know they do it, because if it was just airplanes, this would happen every day. But I've now, since we started Wake Up a year ago, I've been asking people to send me in their geoengineering pictures. And I always get a cluster around about the same time, always. And it's absolutely insane. And Marco, you sent me one, I think, was it today? I think Marco is in the comments. Let me have a look at that as well. Here's Marco's. Marco said, sky right now, progressively getting worse as I've been out over about an hour. Makes me sick and quite sad to see, to be honest. Feel like we're losing our God-given land. It is awful. And thank you to everyone who sent in pictures, including Heidi, James, Alex, Sarah, and Etienne. It is horrible. I'm sorry, I don't know what we can do other than keep raising awareness until we get a mass of people who feel able to take this on properly. But as I say, it's absurd for them to think that we believe that these are aeroplanes, because they'd be happening all the time. And it doesn't happen all the time. It happens in isolation. And I want to ask you this, because I think this is interesting as well. Matt wrote in. Hello, Matt. I hope you are well. Said, if you or any others have noticed the drastic reduction of birdsong around suburban areas. Matt is in southwest London, so quite close to me. He said, my house is surrounded by trees, and pre-COVID, they were a cacophony of blackbirds mostly. During the last few years, almost silence. A few robins, blackbirds seem to come to life around dusk, but that's about it. Maybe this is more one for Chris Packham. No, I'm interested. People in the comments, birdsong. What are you saying? Birdsong? You're getting birdsong? Because this is what's weird, right, Matt, is after I read your, and I think I responded to you saying that's interesting, because I think there's something in that. I actually heard birdsong for maybe the first time in ages yesterday afternoon. It was lovely. And then I realized that there'd been such an absence of it. So I'm very, very concerned. Are we? Oh, wait, who said that? Who said that? Jilly said, no, birds are getting louder here in Cardiff. I like to hear that. Stephen is noticing the lack of insects. Brett said, they wake us up every morning. It's beautiful. Lovely to hear it. London Lady, you're in London, aren't you? Loads of birdsong around here. Love that too. Teresa said, there's no bugs in the windscreen anymore. Colin says, love birdsong. And I've commented to other people, it seems very silent recently. DP says, I keep wondering where all the sparrows have gone. There were so many 40 years ago. And loads of bugs here too. And Sail Away said, garden is full of tits and robins, but no blackbirds. Got ya. And lovely Dennis Kearney, he wrote in, Dennis won our bird feeder the other week. And he said, Grand Rising, Sonia, I received the bird feeder. I absolutely love it. It took 3 weeks for him to receive it. And it was only to Ireland. That's literally over from, here, England to Ireland. That's absolutely mad. And but he sent us in a picture and a video, and I absolutely love it. It's just wonderful. Check this out, peeps. Let me see if I can just bring up his. Ooh, here we go. And here we go. Check it out. Look at that. Oh, you missed it. I'm going to show you an image of it. But look, there's his bees as well. Here it actually is a proper image of it. I love this. Dennis, by the way, when you first wrote in, let me just remove that. That was too quick for you all, so you can have a better look at it. Dennis, when you first wrote in, let me add that to the stage. I didn't realize that you sent a picture of your dog with the bird feeder, looking up at the bird feeder. Look at that beautiful little doggy. Look at that beautiful little dog. Love it. And it's wonderful to see that it's found a home. Really makes me very happy indeed. And grand rising to you, Dennis. And yeah, keeping bees and taking care of our birds. We love that. We love that very, very much. That's my sister-in-law's lovely bird feeder. In it all, Jack. In it all. It's lovely. Lovely to see it. And let me just take this off. I'm doing my best to manage this as you do. Right. First of all, I have to give a shout out to so many of our wonderful, magnificent donators, of course, all the patrons on Patreon and our donators yesterday and today over the last couple of days. Andy M, David B, Kurz 10, Natasha, Paul T, Sticky Mark, Simon M, Eleanor S, Fred W, Lenticular Cloud, Daniel Kraus, and there were also some people on the super chat today, and I'll give you a shout on Friday. I do truly appreciate it. And I saw the funny little thing going on as per with our Armand, who's in the chat, and lovely Shug, and they fight to be first whenever we put the show ready to launch up. And actually, Armand got first for today's show, which is hilarious because usually Shug does. That might not mean anything to anybody. And thank you, Laura, for your lovely, lovely message. I do have fire in me and I'm ready for anything. Well, kind of. Do my best anyway, right? Are you familiar with the Sheep Farm Studio channel on YouTube? Greg, I am, and they would be more than welcome to join us on Wake Up. Yes, they would. Right? I send you a video I took of a bumblebee as my parents poppies on Twitter. Oh, please, Mrs. Pirate, we love that. Oh, thank you, Natasha. You're an absolute star, darling. I should do, hopefully. That's life, but not as we know it. Some mad spraying today. They seem to be doubling up also. They do indeed, you beautiful people. But I truly appreciate your generosity. I truly, truly do. We're heading for our first year nearly. 1 minute past 6. So I just want to say we talked a lot about free speech on today's show. And it's clear we're being manipulated in numerous ways, right? But I believe we should fight for the right to speak freely, even actually to insult and offend people. Because what is the point of free speech if it's only free speech that we approve of? As you know, on Wake Up, I bring on people that I don't necessarily agree with. And because I think it's important not to be an echo chamber around here. And I thank you very much for supporting that. You are absolutely wonderful people. And I appreciate you very much. And I want to end on a quote. And the quote is about free speech. As some wise soul once said, free speech is meaningless unless it tolerates the speech that we hate. And that is a fact. Have a wonderful Thursday. Thank you for being here with me this evening. I appreciate you muchly. You are absolutely stars. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Thursday. I will see you Friday morning, beautiful people. Take good care of yourself. Lots of love. See you Friday.